Hello, my name is David with Van Life Stories and Adventures. And I'm about to introduce you to a friend of mine I met a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but he's a van lifer also. And we met at a McDonald's. So anyway, let me introduce you now. I'm going to ask him some questions, interview him, and we're going to stories and adventure concerning van life. Listen, be entertained, learn something if you do. Anyway, once again, my name is David. And now, let me introduce you to Ray. Hello, Ray. Say hi to the folks, our audience out there.
Oh, hi, everyone. How's everybody there in Vanland?
Well, I'm sure they're doing good. Now, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to switch this camera back and forth a little bit. Try some, both those will be in it sometimes. Sometimes I'll just turn it directly to Ray. Okay, Ray, tell me, when was it that you first moved out of a house and into a van?
Well, that would be probably in '78. My father had a green Ford F2 truck with a white cab. And I didn't even think about it, but I kind of converted it into an office. And I said, you know what happens if I sleep in the cab? And this was on hospital property because I was a security guard working for the hospital. So I didn't think anything would be wrong. And so I did it. And I decided that this would be a permanent lifestyle for me at later time, because I remember as security you're always on call. So I said my van, in this case my truck, would be my mobile office, and I would use it for work purposes, but I could live at the hospital on grounds and not even tell them about it. I would slip in and kind of conceal myself between two cars, and they would never know.
So let me ask you a question on that note. Were you doing it more for the adventure of it, or were you doing it for the economical part of it so that you could save some money, or were you doing it for some other reason? What was your basic reason
Well, usually it's economical, but then also I have that gypsy spirit in me, and I figured, if I could do this and get away with it and not be detected, because security is out there patrolling, and they never detected me, then yeah, there's a sense of adventure right there that's unspoken.
Yeah.
And the best part is that I did get away with it till I quit the job, but I was there for like a whole year, and it gave me a sense of yearning to live that lifestyle. It was like breaking me in little by little, but I enjoyed it.
And what did you do for, taking showers and keeping clean and all that sort of stuff?
That's an interesting thing that you mentioned that, because the hospital had showers for the doctors. And so I would sneak in to the doctor's lounge because I was a technician, so I really didn't have any clout, as they say. But I did manage to sneak in after hours into the doctor's office. And that's where adventure begins, because well, when you're security, they're just thinking that you're just making your rounds and making sure nobody kind of gets into their place. So I would make sure that nobody was there, and I would take a shower, one of those military showers, where you just do it, just quick as you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then during this first time of your adventure of living out of the truck, what did you do for a place to cook, or did you even think about cooking? Did you go to restaurants?
At that point in time, I wasn't much of an experimenter when it came to cooking.
Okay.
What I did, seeing that we're an employee of the hospital, you could eat in the cafeteria and get a discount on your food. So I'd go in the cafeteria. I got to know the people at the cafeteria real well because my truck was there. Cafeteria was on the first floor. The window was out where I could see my truck, and I would go in, get a bite to eat, come back out to the truck. If I didn't have to work, I'd crash if I wanted to. And at that time, I was just still teaching myself how to play the guitar. Something to keep me amused while I'm waiting for my chance to go to work.
So were you playing the guitar in your truck?
Yeah.
In the cab of the truck or in the back of the truck?
In the cab, where they couldn't see me. But I was singing, and because it was a free life.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
So you had a good time.
Oh yeah, I did. I really did.
And then and you say now when you quit that job, did you continue living out of the truck?
I did.
Did you do something
Matter
different?
of fact, what happened was I didn't go back into security, because security has its moments. I went in and actually applied for work in the hospital as a health technician, because I did have some background. I worked as an X-ray assistant, and so that got me in the door a little bit. But I stayed there for maybe the duration, about another year, and I was in the truck till I sold the truck
Okay.
and got another vehicle.
So now when you sold the truck, did you buy a van or a car?
Well, now that's a good point that you brought up, because see, I wasn't yet into the van life fully.
Yeah, because way back then it wasn't even called van life.
It wasn't
It's
even
just
called.
some of us
They
just
didn't
lived our vehicles
recognize
and
it.
nobody acknowledged it, nobody knew it.
Right, they really didn't acknowledge that. But what I looked at was, I was interested in getting a fancy sports car, and so what I did was, and I shouldn't have done it, but I did. Remember, I had the truck for 2 years, and I figured, well, if Dad let me use the truck, I guess that means that I have ownership of the truck. And I traded it in for a TR6, removable hardtop
Sports car?
sports car.
So you traded your truck in for a sports car.
Yeah.
Now, did you live out of the sports car the way you
No,
did your
I
truck? or
couldn't.
did-
I couldn't because it's a one-seater. You know, you have your driver's side and then you have your passenger side. So it was actually a two-seater vehicle. There's no way you could sleep in it unless you sleep while you're in the driver's seat, and you couldn't do that.
Okay, so you ended your first route, your first time of living a van lifestyle,
Yeah.
was sleeping in your truck. You ended that
Yeah.
by buying a car,
Buying a
because you
car.
wanted a sports car. Understandable, young
Yeah,
person.
I was a young
So
person.
then you moved back into an apartment or a house or something and lived a normal lifestyle.
Yeah, I was living out of the reconditioned. It was like a house, but it was. My dad was a landlord, so it was easy for me to ask him, "Hey, what about that house? Can I live out of that house?"
Okay,
And he said, "Sure, just pay the rent out time." Spoken like a real landlord.
sounds good. So now let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
From that point, when was the next time that you moved out of the house or apartment
Oh.
and into a vehicle, and what type of vehicle did you move into?
Well, in this case, since the TR6 started to have problems clutch-wise, because they're for some reason their transmission goes out, and that's just a given with English sports cars. And getting the part was difficult because of exporting and paying for the surcharge or the XR. What is it? The excise tax?
Yeah,
For
something
a
like that. I don't
part-
know, some kind of tax.
Yeah, some kind of tax, and you know, it just became problematic for me just to go and order the part.
So what type of vehicle did you buy next?
So what I did, matter of fact, I didn't buy
Oh,
a
you
vehicle.
didn't?
What I did was I rented.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? Maybe I can rent vehicles and, you know, live out of them that way. So I rented the minivan.
A minivan.
A minivan, yeah, because I did like the van. I wanted to see what it would be like, the difference between a truck and a van. I already knew what it was like to live in a truck.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, this is going to be a learning experience. This is going to be an experiment that I'm going to do. I have control over it. I'm just renting the vehicle, so it's not mine. So I have to be extra careful about how I treat the vehicle.
So did you do any kind of build out, or did you just lay a mattress in the back? What did you sleep on?
It was easy. I just got my sleeping bag and threw it in the back of this minivan. But
So-
the minivan is small.
So you didn't do a build out. You
No,
rented
I
a van, a
rented a
minivan,
van, yeah.
and then you put a sleeping bag in there, and you slept in the sleeping bag
Yeah.
in the back of the minivan.
Yeah, basically.
And it was a rental.
It was
and
a rental.
it was an experiment to learn what the difference
It
between
was an
sleeping in a truck and
experiment.
sleeping
That's
in
right.
a van.
See, I befriended this person, a guy who actually rented out the vans.
Yeah.
And I got to talking with him, and I said, hey, what's the price for a minivan? He said, well, you can get a minivan and get a lease option to buy. And I said, really? So how does that work? He said, well, you put so much money down,
Yeah.
and then you apply your rental purchases towards the purchase of the vehicle. And I thought that's pretty good.
That is good.
And then I said, but what about interest and tax? He said, no, it's all included in the rental agreement.
So then it was just a temporary thing.
It was a temporary
and
thing,
and it
though.
would come to an end, and then you wouldn't own the vehicle, but you'd have the option of
But I
buying the
had the
vehicle at the
option.
end of it.
Yeah, I had the
So
option.
it was an easy way for you to experiment with the van lifestyle.
It was a safe
with
way,
A safe
without
way.
obligating yourself, knowing that if it didn't work out, you own something that really is not going to, pan out in the long run.
And how old were you when you did this with the minivan?
Well, okay, I had the truck for 2 years. Remember, I was like 19, so I must have turned 2 years is 21. It had to have been before I became disciplined in the military. But
So what age did you go in the
well,
military?
when in the military I was 21.
You went in the military when you was
Yeah,
21.
yeah.
So it was somewhere in your young years. I mean, you look like you're what, 62 now, right?
I'm 62 years young, and that's
62.
because I think young, and you know that's how you should think.
And you actually started the van life lifestyle when you're 19.
Yeah,
When you started it with the pickup truck,
with the pickup
and
truck.
then
My
you
dad will never
then you
forgive
switched
me.
to a
He's
car,
now,
and then you
rest in peace. But,
and then
you know,
then you switched to a minivan that
Right.
you rented. So
Yeah.
this is a long time. Now, when you and I met, we met what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
I would have to say 2 years ago.
2 years ago. We
Yeah.
met at McDonald's, and what were you living out of at that point? The Dodge Sprinter, 2005 Dodge Sprinter,
I think it was it was a Dodge Sprinter, 2005 Sprinter,
and
and I
you could
had
stand up in that.
I could stand up because the cab itself was like 9-foot ceiling. So the reason I got that Sprinter is because my mom died, and that was inheritance money, and I went and bought the first Sprinter that I saw. And if you know anything about Florida, Tarpon Springs is about maybe 25 miles from where I was living. So I took the bus all the way out to Tarpon Springs, didn't even know anybody in Tarpon Springs, and I meet this guy at the car dealer, and he was a down-to-earth Greek. And I said, because Tarpon Springs, there's a lot of Greeks there. And I said, hey, how much for the that Sprinter, that 2005 Sprinter van? He said, oh, you mean the Dodge? I said, yeah. He said, it's not a real Sprinter. It's not from Mercedes, but it's got a Mercedes engine. He was trying to sell me right there on the spot, and I already knew what I wanted.
Well, he's a salesman.
Yeah,
That's
he's a
what salespeople do.
salesman. They do that. So I said, well, listen, I noticed that the going price that I saw it, by the way, on the internet. And I found out where it was in Tarpon Springs, and I went and I took the bus, went all the way out to Tarpon Springs, met him, and he said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to knock off. He said this to me
Okay.
because he wanted a buyer, and I had the money because of the inheritance money. He said, I'm going to knock off the first $1,000 off the going price, which was $10,000, and I said, that's great. I got it for $9,000, and at that time when I did buy that, it was about 214,000 miles.
Yeah. Well,
That's darn
the
good.
Mercedes engines, they go for a long ways.
They go at least to about 450,000.
Okay. All right.
And
well,
then they're still working condition.
Well, I'm going to end off on this video. I'm going to end off on this video here. We've got lots more stories to tell, and he had some real good adventures with that Dodge Sprinter van, and something special. Well, something amazing happened while he was living out of that, and we're going to leave that for another video. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Ray, for sharing your story.
David. I appreciate that.
Once again, this is David Collier with Van Life Stories and Adventures, and we'll be coming back soon with more stories. And this is Ray Ebbeler.
Make it a great day.